Apostle Henry Sabit here from CTM, and I believe the Lord has kept you well. Today, I would like to share something very brief. I'll begin by giving you a testimony of one of our greatest times in ministry as Transformation Army, and that was the Moroto mission. It happened in the year 2018, and it was nothing like anything we have ever seen. But one of the things that really made that mission what it was the fact that we were not suffering with finances. We have never had such a seamless operation of things. And God did great and mighty things. If you have seen in some of our photos and videos, that is the mission where that girl walked out of that wheelchair. She had been lame, and God just healed her that day and she began to walk. And one of the reasons as to why that mission was great is not just because somebody walked out of a wheelchair, but because of the way it was funded. It was the only mission where I didn't have to be on phone all the time looking for the money that we are going to use in the afternoon. It was the only mission where we didn't worry about the transport that is taking us back home. It was the only mission where my work was to tell people what to do, to direct events, and to tell people who is to do what, and then go to my hotel room and pray and come back to minister. And I can tell you it was totally different because of that. I didn't have to worry about which car is taking me to the hotel. I didn't have to worry about whether they are going to ask for fuel at the crusade ground. We had a wonderful brother there, one of us that was actually working in Moroto at that time. And whenever people brought their needs to me, all I told them is talk to him, talk to him. And in my heart, I knew as long as they talked to him, it is solved. And that is what it was. Just having him around, and of course, many other people had given a lot, and things were moving on well. Whatever people asked for was available on time. It just made the mission so wonderful. And it made me realize the importance of money in ministry. I mean, we all give and we think we understand it, but I am telling it to you from my end what it does to us. Any pastor will tell you they cannot really be focused if they don't have the resources they need. Some of them never talk about it, but you know, I believe there are more demons that are sent out to stop believers from giving than any other thing. You know, there are all these bad things, like we know there are demons that are responsible for making people drunk. There are demons that are sent out to make people commit adultery and fornication. But I believe when it comes to the church side, most of the demons that the devil sends out are to make sure that they hinder Christians from giving, because it creates a ripple effect. This is how it happens. When you don't give the money you're supposed to give, the church does not receive the money it is supposed to use, and then the pastor is frustrated with whatever is happening and eventually gets distracted from what they're supposed to do. And some of them are distracted by going into things that they're not supposed to do in order to cover up that gap. Or others are distracted in such a way that they're always worrying and they're always anxious, so they cannot focus. And eventually, that also brings you to a point of loss because you don't receive from your pastor what you should have received from them. They come when they have spent an hour when they're preparing the message, but when out of that 1 hour, actually 30 minutes or 40 minutes was embedded with worrying about what is going to happen tomorrow. You can imagine a pastor who has to spend 300,000 shillings. Now, that those are the ones that don't really spend much. You know, Sunday services cost a lot and people never get to know about it sometimes. But just a simple Sunday service, and a pastor has to spend 300,000, and probably the people that demand for the money did something for the church, and people never gave. And by faith, he has promised these people that are demanding that you will come for your money after the Sunday service. So the pastor is organizing the message, is preparing the message, but at the same time, he's making a prayer, Lord, let these people not shame me. And all of a sudden, they don't give. And some pastors eventually look at their flock in a different way. They look at them as people who are not supportive, and they just want to be ministered to, but they are not supporting the ministry. And eventually, some pastors become actually bitter. They keep the smiles on, but inwardly they are bitter, and they cannot release what is of God the way they're supposed to, just because of all these pressures. So it eventually comes back to you being the victim of your not giving. But at the same time, the money that would have been used by the church to do ministry is not available. So what happens? Ministry does not happen the way it's supposed to happen. The crusade that should have happened does not happen. So some lost people out there, some lost souls, do not get to be ministered to. And probably you've never seen it this big. For you think the week you just don't give, you've just not given and other people have given. Hey, that week you don't give, that money you don't give, that seed you don't sow, you are putting a dent in the work of the Lord. And you are causing stress on the side of that pastor, that church leader, that minister that should have been freely serving the Lord without any pressures. So you have to understand that when you don't give, the people that are supposed to be ministering to you do not do exactly what they should have done because there is some lack. And you could say, yeah, but God can always provide. Yes, the Lord always provides. But sometimes there is a gap in between there, between your disobedience and God replacing you to bring in somebody else, or between you not giving now and you choose to give later. Sometimes there is a lag there that causes that stress, that causes that worry, that causes that distraction. And eventually, we are all hurt by that same thing. Wouldn't you want, for instance, some of you that say our ministry blesses you, like you say, my ministry blesses you, my preaching blesses you, wouldn't you want me to spend 3 hours in prayer and my devotion instead of spending 3 hours checking on some people that need to give so that we clear this loan, so that we pay for this? But sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes the time I would have spent in the word is cut short, and this is the reality. Some pastors may not want to tell you this, but this is the reality. Sometimes the time I would have spent in devotion, like for 3 hours, I will take 1 hour and then I will remember there is a bill we are supposed to pay before the end of today. And then you have to send some people messages or call some people or call finance and wonder why we don't have this money in already and how are we going to cover this before 5 p.m. And before you know it, it is some kind of distraction. But it would benefit you more, the person that is a beneficiary of my ministry, if I'm spending all that time in the Word and in seeking the Lord. And I'm telling you, this is one of the reasons as to why Moroto mission was like no other. All other missions are great, but in most of these missions, we have to keep juggling the administrative issues, of which much of that administrative responsibility is all about getting money so that people have what to spend and to use so that we can get the ministry going. But if you wouldn't want us to be distracted by that, be a generous giver. If you can just cover the loans we have to cover, I'll take more time in prayer. If you can just send in the money that we need for the Sunday service, I won't take 2 days thinking about that. If you can send the money for missions and we have all the money we need for the mission, like for the December mission before, we will take all the remaining weeks in prayer and fasting and seeking the Lord's will and, getting prepared for the ministry instead of reaching the last minute and sometimes all the way to the last day of the mission looking for money. So probably you didn't know how much power your money has. But in you not giving it, it has so much power in deterring the work of the ministry. And in you giving it generously, it has so much power in making the ministry run more smoothly and helping the ministers prepare more adequately to bless you and to bless other people. So that's why you always need to give very generously. And right now, we need some people that are going to give like that so that we are not distracted by thinking about money, because there is a lot we need to engage into in the spirit realm. There is a lot of prayer that we need to do. And if we are looking at money, then we're not going to do what we're supposed to do. So it is important, child of God, if God has blessed you with money, with a business, with a job, give, and don't think of giving tomorrow. Because if you think of giving tomorrow, you are leaving us to worry for today. And I'm not saying we worry like we don't have faith when I use that word worry, But I'm talking about things that you cannot put your eyes off. Like you have to pay a loan and the deadline is today. You have to pay for that because next Sunday it will be required. You have to pay for a venue for service. So you have to keep thinking about those things. And when you think about something and you are not solving it, it eventually turns into some anxiety or some kind of worry, even without you choosing to worry. That's what I mean when I talk about that. Help your pastor focus on the word. Help the person that feeds your spirit focus on the word and focus on God by making sure you take care of the physical need so that they can take care of the spiritual need. It is very important, child of God. So it's not just about giving to be a good Christian in church. No, it is ministry when you give. And it's a big, important, vital part of ministry. You gotta do it with that kind of revelation. God bless you.